A is for Alcoholic is a program about recovery. My name is John and I'm an alcoholic.
And my name is Jerry and I'm an alcoholic.
Join us as we go through the alphabet of alcoholism one letter at a time.
Welcome back to A is for Alcoholic. We are the podcast that poses the question, can I drink again? Well,
Probably not.
probably not.
All signs say no.
Yes.
Do we pose that
magic 8 ball.
question?
No,
The magic-
I need to come up with some better openers.
Actually, you probably could, but it wouldn't end well.
right.
That's the thing. You have
Right.
autonomy.
Mm-hmm.
It just would end. In my case, how about not you, fair, dear listener? I don't know your situation.
But we can make, I think we can make fair assumptions about the people who, well, like I can make fair assumptions about the people who have been listening with us, along with us, the people that have reached out to me, that alcohol has been some kind of problem. It has
Mhm.
posed some problem in your life enough that you are interested in analyzing your relationship with it.
Absolutely. We're not here talking about the Snyder cut of fucking Justice
No.
League.
What, I don't even know. I never even saw the original.
I saw the original. It was boring, and then I was like, "Do I want 4 more hours of DC comic?" No,
I've been
but I
so
don't really.
out of that loop.
I read comics as a kid, but I don't. I mean, not even as a kid. Like in high school, I read them, but I just don't really. I enjoy the movies, but I don't fuck with them. Like I'm not. Same with Star Wars. I don't really fuck. Just funny, right? Because we're both Gen X dudes, and
We
like we
should
don't
be.
really fuck with that shit too much.
Not really. I mean, I think back in 2014, I tried to watch The Empire Strikes Back because I remember it being the good one, the best
Yeah.
one.
Mhm.
And I was thinking, this is kind of weak. It's kind of
Right.
silly. And I wasn't as
Didn't age
excited.
well.
And that was, yeah, basically it didn't age well.
I mean, they're still enjoyable, but it's not like this mecca that I'm going to pray to, you know. Now, if you
No.
make a fucking documentary about like the Pixies, or if you make a documentary about Pavement, like then
I'd
I'd be
watch
like,
that. Right. Exactly. Yeah, I don't know. I just
Yeah.
haven't been really following along. You talk about reading comics, and so there's a picture people get in their heads when they talk about I grew up reading comics, because I say that too, but I used to read the little books that were like High and Lois and Hagar the Horrible and Wizard of Id. You know which
Yeah,
ones I'm talking
I know
about?
exactly what you're talking about. You fucking with Riverdale and shit.
There was some Archie in there. Yeah, it was like they were like the worst comics. And so I think, I don't know why those were there. I didn't like seek them out, but yeah,
They're your dad's.
they were my dad. So I guess that's what I got turned on to. So yes, it would be like, ooh, let me get another Beetle Bailey from the used bookstore.
No, I can relate because my grandfather, my Tata Chepe, had these Mexican comics because they're really prevalent in Mexico, and they're these little comic books about this big, and they're all cowboy stories and like rebel stories and criminal stories. And there's always a lady getting her shirt ripped off with her titty out. There's always like a Pancho Villa writing in, kicking ass and ripping a titty out. And that's the shit my grandfather read when I was little. So I would read them too, and they're all in Spanish. But yeah, then it translated as I got older. I got more into the alternative scene and skateboarding and stuff. And I don't know, someone gave me like a Sandman comic, and I was like, here we go.
Right.
I love this shit. Yeah,
I just never got into the superhero stuff.
Nah, I did it, right? Like I appreciate it. I know the stories, at least all everything from the 90s. Like I'm fluent. How's that? I'm not a native speaker, but I'm fluent.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I talk to other people, and it's like, okay, I mean, I'm aware, like I know who Wolverine is.
Yeah, he's the dude,
You know?
he's Hugh Jackman. Yeah.
You know, I get it, but I'm just not as fascinated or invested in the
Right.
sagas of
Which is
Hawkeye.
It's funny because the other podcast the only other one I ever do ever is a movie podcast about comic book movies.
Which one's that?
You know
What's
what I
it called
mean?
again?
That Harmless Phosphorescence. Y'all should check it
Yes.
out. It's pretty good. But it's friends of mine, so I'm just shooting the shit with people I know about comic book movies and Blade. But my comic book movies are like Blade.
Yes, I listened to the one you guys did with Blade. It was pretty good. It was fun.
Yeah. I do all the snipes. I'm like their snipe expert, even though I know nothing about Wesley Snipes, except he'll steal a movie, you know.
He will.
Yeah,
I mean,
Lawrence Fishburne
New Jack City,
steal a movie.
Tu Wong Fu.
Tu Wong Fu, dude. Tu Wong Fu, dude. He did
But yeah,
the Dolomite movie with Eddie Murphy, right? Wasn't that Wesley
he
Snipes?
did. And
And he
you
was
know,
badass in it. And he also apparently steals Coming to America too.
I
Like
didn't
he's
see
in the
either of
Coming to
those.
America Part 2. I haven't
Yeah.
seen Part 2. You haven't seen the original Coming to America?
I've seen the original Coming to
Oh, I
America.
was about to be disappointed and be like,
I've
we're
seen it
pausing this
multiple
podcast
times.
so you can. But that movie's so damn funny.
Yes. And so I remember our buddy Danny was very excited about it, and he saw it and he's like, it's just not the same. And I was like, yeah, it's not the same. It's not
Yeah,
going to
because
be
they
the
made the
same.
original 30 years ago. How are you gonna make a sequel 30 years later? It's just
He said Arsenio was the best part. He
yeah.
said Arsenio Hall was classic.
Why'd you tell me how good this cheese was? Even if Arcena's best lives from a Chappelle skit.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, I just wanted to say really quickly, for those of you out there who have supported us since the beginning on Patreon, we appreciate it. Patreon.com/AIFA. Thank you all. If you are not there, if you'd like to be there, we'd be happy to have you. If not, that's cool too. The stuff's always going to be free. If you could even just pause the podcast for a second and give us a rating on Apple Podcasts, that helps push us through the algorithmic sludge of the 750,000 podcasts that are out there.
Yeah.
So
recovery podcast.
Yeah. So thank you for that. Thank you guys who listen. And yeah. So that's all I got to say about that.
Yeah, check out our Patrons where we do our AIFA After Dark.
After dark.
Things get a little sultry.
I would say that anybody out there listening who has any good we'd love to do another we're going to do another recovery movie review here at some point. And I think we were thinking about Flight and some other things, but if you got any suggestions, please push them our way, send them our way.
Push notifications.
Push notifications. So can you tell me you were dealing with a lizard today, this afternoon, this morning?
Big Gila monster in our yard, man. Which we had to relocate. It's funny too, because he's walking the perimeter of the fence. And my mom's like, look at that Gila monster. And it wasn't very bright. I think it was male. And it was big, man. It was as big as a house cat. And we didn't want it biting the dogs because the dogs will fuck with it and it'll clamp down on a dog and poison them. And my dad didn't want it getting into the big piles of shrub we have in the backyard because he doesn't want to kill it. So they have this snake stick. It's a really long pole with a grabber arm on the end of it. And they use it to pick up snakes, to get snakes like rattlesnakes and stuff out of the yard. And my dad comes out and he's on his way he does a recovery ministry at the Episcopalian church up here. So they do this all day recovery thing. And he's like, he's all dressed up and he's like, gotta go to church. This is the first time I've been to church in a year. So I don't have time to get that Gila monster. Can you pick him up with a snake stick, put him in a bucket and go throw him in the lot across the street? And I was like, no, I can't. I've never even, it's the first time I've seen a fucking Gila monster. Like, I'm not an animal control officer. And my brother-in-law is like, I got it. Cause he does it all the time. Cause they'll pinch up a rattlesnake and shoot it in the head with a BB gun. Cause rattlesnakes will kill you. So they have to get rid of them. It's just law of the desert, man. I'm sorry.
I guess.
People out there who are animal lovers, rattlesnakes aren't fucking animals. So anyway, no, that's a hot take. That's a hot desert take.
It's a hot desert take. Yeah.
Literally. Yeah. I apologize. I haven't killed any animals, but that's just what they do,
Well,
so
if it was between you and the snake
and the dogs and the kids and the chickens and all the other crap they have out here. So anyhow, yeah. So he went and just pinched it up with the snake pole, stuck it in a Tupperware, and we walked it down the street. And he was just talking to it the whole time. He's like, "You're a good boy. I think you're a boy. I don't know what you are, but we're gonna put you out here." But I know immediately we dropped him right down the, across the street in the desert, open desert. And I know he's right back to where he was before because that's where all the good lizards are that he's gonna eat. Just goes back to his hunting grounds. Yeah, it just goes right back down there again. So
when I was working at the wildlife rescue, they would talk about trying to put animals back after they'd rehabilitated them and put them back in the same spot in the same area, or try to put them somewhere different. But like a lot of times they end up right back where they know where the food is, or they know where the good shelter is, or the water, or whatever it is. So I kind of want to use your your experience with the lizard as the parable for today's topic a little bit as a jumping off point. So I wanted to talk about reluctance and how we feel reluctant toward things. Obviously, we're going to talk a little bit about sobriety, probably a lot, recovery, and that we can be very reluctant to change of any kind. I mean, I think that's a basic human nature, right? We get comfortable with something, we want to stay comfortable. It's what keeps us. It's what's kept me stuck sometimes, because your body is always in your mind is like, let's keep things as comfortable as possible. Evolutionarily, we're talking about dealing with the fucking wild, and let's try not to put ourselves in too much danger, even though we live in a relatively stable world compared to 10,000 years ago. Just the idea of you having to go and pick up a lizard out of the desert and just being told this is what you need to do now. You're like, no, I'm not going to do that. That's your immediate response is, I don't know. I've never done that before.
Right.
Have this sort of the reluctance to something new or something potentially dangerous. And so I feel like, especially when we're drinking, we know what we perceive as comfortable, or at least we like the pain that I know is more manageable than the pain that I don't know. And so you have this potential danger in front of you, right? Picking up a fucking giant lizard, or the size of a house cat. I would probably say the same thing. I wouldn't jump at the chance to. I don't even know what a snake stick thing is. Like, does it have a loop?
It's a stick for snakes. No, it's got a pincher. It like pinches.
Okay.
It's like you pull a trigger on one side and this little pincher on the other side. It claps. Makes that snake ass clap. I don't know what that means.
The snakes to have an ass?
No, they have a cloaca.
Oh, well, thank you, Bill Nye.
Yeah.
So, and I think that both you and I, there was no false start in our recovery. There was no, I guess I'll give it a try, but I don't really want to. It was like that the very end, I don't know what else to do. I've done all the drinking I can do. But what do you think about the idea of the moment of that immediate fear of not drinking? Or do you remember, was it like, oh my God, I'm never going to drink again? Was it
no,
like a lizard
I don't
in the
know.
box?
I think we've done this podcast for so long that you're fucking stretching. You're like, your fear of the Gila monster. It's the same as your fear. But I understand, because they're both rooted in the same place. I understand, but like
You're right.
Dying on the fucking vine here, being like,
well, I didn't really think about it
lizard
too long.
this morning, right? I'm like, let me tell you about Empire Strikes Back.
Okay, forget about the lizard.
No, okay. So here's
forget
the thing:
about the lizard.
I don't know if there was any conscious thought within anything. It's really hard for me to recall those days. Not that they were like a long time ago, but I know that what was running through my head was that it wasn't an option to not drink. It was something that was unsurmountable, because it was part of me and part of what I did. It's not like this thing I just suffered through all the time, and it wasn't like I wasn't a fucking Shakespeare character trying to figure out whether or not I was going to drink the fucking poison, dude. I was either gonna not or do, and that was it. That was the only two choices I had.
You're like, I wasn't some sort of Shakespeare character in the middle of a soliloquy.
Should I quit or should I not quit?
And here I am trying to cram some fucking Gila monster narrative into what really wasn't that much thought, right? I think the reluctance for me was years before.
Right.
It was not within that week or two where I finally eventually quit.
Right. Well, yeah, and for me too, it wasn't this eve of darkest discontent where I had to. You know what I was thinking when we had texted about reluctance was I attended my first in-person AA meeting this week. The first one in like over a year, since before pandemic, because I kind of stopped going. And I was sitting there in this meeting, fully vaccinated, took my mask off to share and then put it back on, whatever. You know, they had the Zoom set up too. They had a monitor with people who normally attended this meeting. It was at an Alano club and shit.
Mm-hmm.
And I was thinking about when you had texted me about reluctance, I was thinking about even the reluctance to seek help, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because you have now made the decision to quit. And on that part, you can either try it on your own, which may work, may has worked for other people, you know, it may be effective, or you seek help. And for me personally, from my story, seeking help was attending Alcoholics Anonymous. And so I thought about how people, when they want to, are very reluctant to attend that first meeting because they understand, in a way, at least for me, how about me? I understood that when I attended that first meeting, it would be like flipping a switch. That my thought process from then on, once I had recognized and admitted that I had a problem, had changed. It wasn't about I'm a hard drinker who likes to party a lot, who's having a hard time, who's just depressed, and the alcohol just makes me feel a little more depressed. It was like, no, I flat out can't do this shit. Like I have a fucking problem. And you know, we can sit here and fucking be on top of it and be like very open and forgiving to all of our addictions and shit, but it's still stigmatized to have a problem within the normie community. If you are an addict or an alcoholic, you have a fucking problem. It's a problem. Do you know what I mean? And it's stigmatized. So am I willing to put that stigma on myself? And am I willing to, it's so much, right? Are you willing to abandon the thing that had worked for you for years and now no longer works? And on top of it, walk around with a label, or just be like, yo, I can't do that anymore. So that's what I was thinking about reluctance, right? Think about your first meeting, how reluctant you were to be open to those ideas, you know?
I had absolutely no interest. It was the
Right.
opposite of interest. It was disinterest. It was deep resentment. It was wanting to keep continuing to put up that wall against those things. And you talk about the stigma back in 2014, it was even more, there was a lot less going on in the realm of online sobriety help, recovery
Right.
help, right?
My
We see it a
resource,
lot all the
our
time.
resources, how many times do you take that AA test? Do you ever take the test? Go online and on the
Yes.
website and take the test. Do I
Yeah.
drink in private? I thought that was the only way you're supposed to drink. Do I drink
Those-
every day? Yeah, who doesn't? Do you know what I mean? Like every answer, I was like, duh. Have you lost a job? Because that was the only one. Because I work in the fucking tattoo industry, which is, they're all degenerates and drunks anyway. So
well,
I'm just like, well,
yes.
I'm just not all of them. This is all in satire. But it was
You
it was
should have
par for the
lost your job
course.
multiple times.
I absolutely should have not been working.
Right.
So the reluctance is there to admit that you need help with a problem, or to even admit, especially us being men and our idea of our toxic masculinity, for us to ask for help. Like, I don't ask for help. I don't want to be a burden to anybody or show any sign of not knowing what I do. I don't. But I have to, right? I have to acquiesce and ask for help because I can't do it on my own. I'm not going to rewire my house on my own. That's wild shit. My house will burn down.
you wouldn't know where to begin.
Exactly. So how am I going to know where to begin? Not just not drinking, because that's the simple action is just not drinking. Just don't drink. But the hard action is, how do you live life not fucking drinking? How do you live that life?
Yeah, and in very serious cases, you can't just stop drinking, right? Or else you will die.
You will absolutely die. Yes.
Right? I mean, in very
Yeah.
serious cases, you can die from the withdrawals.
Yes.
It's funny you said, "Do you drink alone?" And my first thought was, well, yeah, that's the right and good thing to do, to leave everyone else, not to bother anybody, not to be
Right.
that burden. Like I
To
thought I
leave
was
them out
doing
of the
the
show.
good thing, to leave them out.
Yeah.
I thought I was saving everybody from my abhorrent behavior. But yeah, I mean, I was reluctant for 6 months. I mean, you were the only one that I talked to, and I would go to that meeting and I would sit there and I'd be like, and then and it would start to kind of crack open. Like I was like, okay, so there's other things going on here, but I didn't want to like really dive right in. I
No.
hear that a lot from people, and part of me is kind of envious when I would see people who were like, we dove right in. They would tell their story and be like, me and my sponsor, I got a sponsor. I did 90 meetings in 90 days and all this stuff. And I was like, I ain't got that time, that kind of time.
Well, goddamn, class president. That's what I always thought. Well, I guess you win AA.
Uh-huh.
And it's so resentful of me, but I would always think that. Well, look who's the fucking most likely to succeed over here.
Mm-hmm.
Because I didn't get a sponsor immediately. I didn't jump in and do all fucking 12 steps in a month. Like all these newcomer, like I'll see some newcomer dude who'll be like, yo, man, I'm banging out. I'm already on step 10. How long you been sober? 2 weeks. I'm like, what the fuck y'all doing? Like the unabridged version? Like maybe I've been on the 4th step for 2 years now, you know, like, and I'm also doing it. Well, not wrong. I mean, there's no wrong way to do it as long as you're doing it and it's work. If it's working, you're doing it the right way. Right.
That's a good point. Yes. If it's working.
Right. And to use a crude analogy, it's like masturbation. If it works, then you're doing it the right way. You don't want anybody busting in the room and being like, you're doing that wrong. Or you don't want anybody opening up your car door and being like, sir, you can't do that here.
Right. Exactly. So no, you make a good point that if it's working, you're not doing it wrong. And at some point I imagine, at least for me, at certain points, I'll preface it this way, so I'm not making any accusations or presumptions, but I would go, okay, I want more from this, and that's going to require more. So it would be this sort of level of comfortability. Things are running smoothly. I'm feeling pretty good about stuff. Yeah. And then it would take a dip because it would kind of be like, okay, well, that means you need to put in more work. You need to, I don't know, go talk to somebody else. You need to reach out to somebody else. Right. So, I can't say that you're doing it wrong because you haven't, you say, I've been on the 4th step for 2 years. Right. It's like, well, I guess it's going to take what it's going to take. And
I'm a slow worker and very lazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know what I mean? Like I didn't want to. And then when I finally did that 5th step, my sponsor was like, now we got to do the sex inventory. And then we just stopped there. I just never did the sex inventory. Not because I was reluctant. I was like, you want to hear about all the gross shit I've done? Pull up a chair. You know, you've probably done some wild shit too. It's just, we just never pursued it. And so it just stopped there. So I always kind of stopped it. Yeah. After dark, the Patreon episode where I'm just like, then I peed the bed and fell asleep.
Yeah. That's usually mostly what it is. I mean,
I threw up in her shoe.
Yeah.
And I stole her purse.
Yes. So, but, man.
Yeah, dude.
I think we just eventually, well, again, I'll say for me, I would just get tired of my own reluctance. I would get frustrated with myself and I'd be like, well, there's one of two options here. You can sit here and not do anything. Nothing changes if nothing changes, right? Exactly. Or you can try something else. Now, I can certainly avoid the actual work of going through the steps for as long as I want and try a million other things. Ultimately, what has led to further relief and comfort has been doing the steps in some capacity on some level.
And it's just, you're just working on yourself. Here's the thing. Yeah, and it's really, no, I'm not laying it on you. I'm just laying it out in general in the world because I get on the internet. I like the internet, right? And I go on Reddit and I go on the AA subreddit and I go on the stop drinking subreddit. Kind of get tired. I like the stop drinking subreddit. It's great for early recovery, but sometimes it's a little demoralizing for me to read because it's constantly like every other post is like, I relapsed. Yeah. I fucking drank today. I had 2 weeks, you know, and my heart goes out to those people. It really does. But I can only read so many fucking relapse stories before I'm like, this whole fucking subreddit needs to figure their shit out. But as far as the AA thing, a lot of people, what they'll do is they'll use that kind of cognitive bias. It's not the word I'm looking for, but they'll use that bias. They'll go to one meeting and they'll be like, they talked about God too much, so all the meetings are like that. Do you know what I'm saying? Or like, I went to the one meeting with the pious fucking assholes who talk shit to me because I'm 2 days sober and I'm saying some wild shit and someone called me on it. All of AA must be like this. Do you know what I'm saying? And if that's what's keeping you from getting feeling better, well then keep drinking. Do you know what I'm saying? Like that's like me drinking one beer and being like, all beer is gross, which is true. All beer is gross. But do you know what I'm saying though? Like, as far as like during my drinking years, it didn't
Mm-hmm.
keep me from drinking the beer if it was there. I wasn't like a discerning alcoholic who was like, I only drink bourbon. I'm like, I prefer bourbon. If you have the bourbon, I would drink all of your bourbon. But if you all you have is beer, I'll drink 12 of them. Do you know what I'm saying? Like you were not picky when you were drinking.
No.
Like, so, and I'm not also, it's hard. The reason why I sigh and rub my head before I even say it, because I don't believe AA is the only way to get sober. There are other ways. But if you are discounting a meeting because they said the fucking Lord's Prayer at the end and you're an atheist, well, then you're just getting in the way of your own fucking recovery, I think, in my opinion, because I don't believe in the Lord's Prayer. And I went to that meeting the other day and said it because I don't give a fuck. If I will walk 5 miles in 110-degree heat to buy a fifth of whiskey, I'll sit at a meeting and say the Lord's Prayer to stay sober. That's just how I look at it. Honestly, I think it's just an excuse, like,
yes.
And it frustrates me because I'm like, all you got to do is pick and choose, pick the things that'll work for you. And if the God shit doesn't work for you and some 60-year-old dude named Bill, who's a half a right winger, is saying some dumb shit, don't listen to fucking Bill. He's an alcoholic. He doesn't know what the fuck he's doing. He just showed up here just like you did.
You're listening to the wrong Bill.
Yeah. Even the other Bill, even Bill W, man. I mean, listen to some of what Bill W says, but not all of it. Bill W is a shady dude too, dude.
Problematic to say the least.
Come on, problematic, right? Dude. It's like, with all the lady members of AA, like, well, Lois, let me help you out. Like, come on now, Bill.
So the thing with the meetings is like, even the meeting that I would go to and my home group, there would be meetings I'd go and I was like, God, that was terrible. I didn't get anything from that.
Just don't go back to that meeting.
But then I would go back the next week and it would be something completely different. And so, so it's kind of like even your favorite bar has shitty nights, right? You go to the different meetings, different bars. Like, maybe you're not into a sports bar. Maybe you're not into a dive bar. Maybe you don't need a fancy cock. Maybe you're looking for a little neighborhood joint, right? So they're just meetings are kind of like that. And you find a different group and find different people and they do everything different. And again, maybe you're not interested at all, but go find something else. Right. I just know that there's a group of people and it's free and they all are just trying to stay sober and help each other. Right.
Dude, I got these Danners, right? The $250 fucking hiking boots. They're work boots. I love them. I hiked like 8 miles in them. I will go run a 5K in those Danners. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, I'll go put on my fucking Nikes or whatever shoes I got. I'll put on my running shoes. And that's how all the different meetings work, too. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, not every meeting is a pair of work boots. Like, sometimes you need to go to the work boot meeting. Sometimes you need to go to the Merrill meeting. Sometimes you need to go to the fucking laid back flip flop meeting where the dude does have a fucking dopeless hope dealer shirt on who's running the meeting. Sometimes you got to go to that Sublime meeting and have a good time. Like, they're all different. But I also, once again, I want to be really fucking transparent and be like, really, I just want to be open to say that this isn't the only way. This is just the way that works for me. And when I hear people use one dumb little excuse like that, like, well, I'm an atheist. Motherfucker, I'm an atheist too. And I'm at the damn meetings. Like, I just don't want to drink anymore, dude. And if that's what's going to help me, then I'm going to do that.
And it's
choice is yours. Don't be reluctant.
Excuses, Jerry. Excuses. They're fucking excuses.
Which is what we're full of them too. You and I are both hella 100%. Full of them as well. I just want to say, I want to be transparent. I'm not coming from a place on high. It sounds like I am, but I'm not, because I'm there with you.
You're passionate because you want people to get the help that they need. I understand. I feel you.
You'll feel better. Like, I feel better. I'm still super depressed. I'm still in a hole emotionally, but I know it and I recognize it and I work my way through it and I ride through it way down in that hole, dude, way down that hole. And I ride through it because it'll pass. It'll pass.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's just, and that resistance and the excuses. And so, and if I may do another little plug for a podcast I was on.
Yes, please.
Friday. Yeah. So this guy invited me. It's called Reco 12, RECO 12. And originally he wanted me to come up with some sort of topic, and I just had to punch something in, and I just said, I'm just talk about all of it. I don't really know.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, well, he's like, well, that's kind of vague. If you have something in specific you'd like to talk about. And I don't want to come off as some sort of expert, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because that seems disingenuous. I don't really know what I'm doing.
Yeah, neither of us do.
It's somebody gave me, they said something, I think it was my mother who's had some word of praise or something like that. And I said, Mom, honestly, like I'm kind of just making it up as I go along and doing the best I can. So I was kind of joking about, cut the shit and do the work. And I made those shirts for my running. And
Yeah.
the whole point of that was that, what are the real excuses? What are the real reasons to stop? Are you actually, going to hurt yourself? Then maybe you should stop. But if there's some pain that's inconsequential, then keep going and don't listen to those voices. And so I think that works too. And so that was my topic, was I said, how about cut the shit and do the work? And he's like, well, and it's more of a, explicit free, or they more of a family oriented show. So I said, cut the junk, and he liked that. But that was the thing about the excuses is, I know as an alcoholic, I'm always looking for excuses to drink, right?
Yeah.
It's Tuesday, it's the weekend, it's, somebody's birthday, it's, I had a hard day, I had a great day, it's beautiful out, it's miserable out, right? I'm sad, I'm happy, I want to just feel anything other than myself. So I know that for me, while I was drinking, that was constant. That was my life, was like, what's the excuse to drink? And so I think that is just an extension of that. Well, that sobriety didn't work. That thing didn't work. That must, they just throw that whole, baby with the bathwater,
all of it
kind of thing.
Yeah. Throw it all in the ocean. Yeah.
And if I had not done that, now, granted, you went in there first, and I had another friend who was in AA. And so there was, because I knew of your skeptical nature as my friend, I was like, okay, well, if this is working for him, maybe there's something past the God stuff.
Yeah.
Maybe there's something past all of the rigid structure, which, come to find out,
there's no rigid structure. It's so funny, dude.
That's what I thought.
Right. Yeah.
But it's the structure that I have developed for myself that's worked.
Correct.
So yeah, so that's, I'm thinking all these things, but I'm like, well, if Jerry's doing it, and I know that he's not into God, and I don't think that he could be flipped that easy, like that was how it was in my mind. I was like, okay, so let's just go check this out. And, I talked to this other guy, and he's not in the program, but he's like, well, I mean, I guess it's just however you define it. But he would tell me, sometimes I go, and I've got a couple of friends in there. I don't go all the time. I go like 3 or 4 times a year, but it's like, really, it's nice and it's helpful. And I think they're good people. And I just don't follow the whole thing. And he's been fucking sober like 12, 13 years or something like that. And
good
so
for him, that's rad. Yeah.
So it doesn't really matter, but I do get where you're coming from when you go through those subreddits, and I've been through the stop drinking one, and just like, or there's one group on Facebook that's like, stop drinking, and it's repeatedly people going, I fucked up again. I drank again. I drank again. I drank again. And
as part of the process, dude, I mean, it's only discouraging for me to read, because I'm like, damn, I want you to succeed,
right.
You not drinking doesn't make you part of my club. It just means that you're succeeding, and you're seeing that the benefits of, you know what I mean? Like pulling that veil off. That's what you get out of it. But you got to do everything raw too, though. That's the bitch, dude. Like, that's the one bitch I didn't realize about getting sober, was I have to do it all sober now. Like, I got to do it all raw. Like, sad things happen, I got to do that raw. I get depressed, I got to do that, just raw dog it. I got a raw dog life, dude. I raw dog reality, dude. And it sometimes it sucks, dude. Sometimes it fucking sucks. Yeah, because dude, like, I don't want to drink, but I understand releasing that pressure valve. But for me, the fact that I relate it to a pressure valve being released shows that my relationship with getting fucked up is not a healthy relationship. Some people like, I drink a beer and I go to bed. you know, or I drink a glass of wine and that's just to celebrate and that's it, you know. And for me, I was like, man, I need to relieve all this tension in my body. And the only way I can think of doing that, not going for a walk, not fucking doing yoga, not painting, not listening to good music, it's drinking a fifth of whiskey.
Yep.
You know, yeah.
Yeah. I still am boggled when people will leave the restaurant and they leave like half a glass of wine
Yeah.
or even like a third of a bottle. They'll have purchased a bottle for 70, $80 for
Right.
a
You
bottle of
just
wine.
chase them out in the parking lot with the bottle. You're like,
Hey.
sir, you left this on the table with the glass with like the three
Mhm.
sips. You left this on the table.
Yeah, and it's tough sometimes. Well, it's not tough for me, but people's feelings are hurt, like especially if they're winemakers and they'll bring their own wine in. And they're like, and please feel free to pour yourself a glass. And I'm like, I'm not drinking tonight.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and depending on what time of year it is, they'll be like, oh, doing a dry January. And I'm like, yeah, something like that, you know, or whatever.
In
Sober
January,
October.
we're like, yeah, 24 hours long. Yeah.
So,
I
but
just
it's
wear my little necklace. Not that nobody asks anymore, but I'm like,
Mhm.
this is not Harry Potter.
So let me ask you that about that, because you no, it's not a Harry Potter necklace.
No.
So I was recently in the jewelry store. It's my mother's birthday, and it's coming
Mhm.
up soon.
You
And
gonna buy her an AA necklace?
no, I'm not. I don't think she would appreciate that
Probably read
exactly.
Harry Potter though.
Yeah, she might
Mm.
have. Um, and so I got something, and originally, so the last medallion I got, the last coin I got, didn't have a little thing to put on my keychain, so it's kind of been tucked in this little pouch in my wallet.
Mm.
And the guy got me the little hoop, and he was going to set it all up. And he had the wrong phone number. He's had the thing since last September, and I just forgot about it.
Yeah.
So, so he says, "Well, give me the coin, and I'll give me about 7 to 10 days, and I'll have it back for you." And I handed it to him, and I'm kind of looking around, and I get something for my mom, and then I said, "Hey, Mike, I'm not really superstitious about much, but I'm traveling. I'm taking a trip here soon. And can I just have that back? And I'll give it back to you once I'm back in town and you can have it for a week or whatever." Do you feel some sort of like, is it an amulet for you or a sigil? Because I felt it was the first when I had to give it up, like I forgot that it was, I just kind of forget that it's in my wallet and it just lives
Yeah.
there.
Mm-hmm.
But as soon as I had to hand it over for a week and I was going to be traveling, I was like, you know what? I'm just going to keep that in here
Right.
now.
The chip I keep on my keychain is a symbol. It
Mhm.
just reminds me. That was hopefully we'll just cut that right out of the pod, but you probably won't. But the what I keep on my keychain is my 24-hour chip, and I
Right.
drill a hole in it every year. You know, but that's on my keychain. The one I wear on my necklace, honestly, is just because I like wearing jewelry. I'm just that
Mhm.
kind of dude. I'm
I
like,
know.
yo, I stopped wearing my rings because I just work outside all the time. I don't want to fuck my rings up. But with the AA symbol on my necklace, I just thought it was a cool little pendant, and I was like, well, I'm not gonna wear a cross because I'm not religious, even though I have like a little Virgin Mary pendant too. But that's more of like a Mexican American thing, I think.
Right.
But yeah, it's just. But I think no, it's not. I don't know what it is, dude. It just is what it is. Like the
Hmm.
one on my keychain though is to remember, just like the one you keep in your wallet, you
Right.
know. And like to be superstitious is fine because that symbol has as much significance as you place into it. You know what I mean? So
Mhm.
there's nothing wrong with that. Like,
I
oh
was just
my
like,
my,
I'm gonna
my
be
old
out on the
man keeps a
road,
24-hour chip in his wallet too.
Yeah.
You know, it's just the symbol is the symbol. It's, you know, I knew dudes who'd cut notches in their fucking belts or whatever it was, you know, cut
Mhm.
notches in things or put hash marks on things. It's just is what it is, you know. But the necklace is more because it looks cool.
Right.
And I'm like, man, I want a little sigil, like a little symbol here. I'll just use that because the program has done a lot for me, even though I don't go very much. It's done a lot and I'm grateful to it. And I don't know, if people see it, they just know, hey, I'm out here, I'm sober too. Like I'm doing all
Mhm.
right. Like, you know, people are thinking about it or other people. That's the best thing about being in that meeting. And I shared too. And I was just like,
Oh yeah.
and I
How
do it
was it?
sometimes. It was interesting, dude. It was 8 people in this room at a Tucson Alano club that's been around since like the 60s. You can tell because the building just has like smoke permeated into the walls. And where they had the meeting was like in a separate shed. It was like a big metal, looked like an old garage. You could tell they had like concrete benches out and a barbecue. They have all kinds of parties there pre-pandemic and shit. They had a monitor on the table with everybody who usually attends that, because it was a 7 a.m. meeting. So I was supposed to go to a 6:45 a.m. book study. So I drive up to this church. It's only 2 miles down the road, and nobody's there. Nobody's there. And it's like 6:45, and by 6:35, 10 minutes before, there's no one there. So I'm like, this is a bust, because somebody always shows up early, unlocks the door, and starts putting chairs out, even if it's 3 people. So I'm like, well, I'll go down to this one that's farther south. So I went farther south here in Tucson, and I couldn't find it. I found it, and then I couldn't find where everybody was sitting. And then I saw a lady get out of her car and walk into a room, and I'm like, that's where all the drunks are. So I went and sat down with them, and of course, there's like 8 people in there, and I'm the new guy. And I just walk in, and they're all boomers. It's all boomers. And I walk in fucking pompadour and a bunch of tattoos. I know I stick out. I'm not like, hey, look at me, but I know I look different than the rest of them. So they're all, and I'm also new. So they're all, who the fuck's a new guy? But I just shared with them and told them, I'm from Eugene. I moved here from Eugene, Oregon. And, I just don't really like it here sometimes in Tucson. But my family's happy and my wife and daughter are happy. But I just personally don't really like the desert very much, and I have to learn how to accept it and learn how to love it eventually. Just like I didn't like being sober at first, dude. I didn't fucking like it. No. I wasn't like, this is the greatest week of my life.
Yeah.
So it was a good meeting, but my voice cracked because I felt emotional because I was so happy. I have my parents, but they're my parents. Our dynamic's very different. We're all drunks, but we have a very different dynamic. Just our mother, father, son dynamic. So to be in a room full of strangers who get it, I felt really grateful for that, because it's hard. You know how it is, dude. Come on, you work in the restaurant industry with a bunch of kids who are out partying all the time, and then a bunch of people whose sole purpose is to be there for the food, the wood-burned pizzas or whatever, and the fucking wine for the booze. And you're like the one sober fucking cork adrift in the sea of ding dongs. You know what I mean? That's how I feel a lot, not in this house, but, and I don't mean it like, I just mean in the world,
Yeah.
I really do. I feel like I'm the only one sometimes, and it gets lonely. Like I get butthurt about it, because I'm like, fuck, am I the only one not drinking tonight? Doing a play on Mishka shit. But like, so to be in that room with a boomer named Bill, and another boomer named John, it's John and Bill,
There's a lot of Johns in AA.
And I tell him I'm from Eugene, Oregon, and he says, hey, make sure when you start to write, do it in the parking lot, ha ha ha. And I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna write on your fucking face, you ding dong. But whatever, just to be in that room with him though, I'm like, yeah, you could be a right-wing weirdo, but what I know. We know each other, bro. Like, so it felt good. It felt really good.
Yeah.
I'm going back, maybe not to that one, because it's really early. Yeah. But I'm gonna go back to another one. I'm gonna find a nice evening one that's close.
I'm gonna have to. It's time now that I've gotten, my double dose.
Are you done? I'm full?
Done.
When did you get your last dose?
On the 13th.
What's today?
So that's last Tuesday.
So you'll be hot and ready to go by the
end of the month,
27th, huh?
My mom's fully vaccinated. I told her, like, when I was getting mine, she's like, I'm as close to, I'm going to be there for her birthday. And so she's like,
ask to a meeting when you're ready, wear a mask. You can even share with the mask on. Everybody was taking theirs off. And I'm like, well, I'm vaccinated. What am I going to get? COVID?
It was kind of scary for me when I did that talk, and when I got invited to go to Stockton, and this was like last spring in the middle of it. And I was
everything
like,
was hot, man. And there were no vaccinations.
There were none. And, I went in there and some people had masks on. A lot of people didn't. And I was just like, well, go with God. I didn't want to say no. And it was fine. And so, yeah, you're right. I mean, I guess I will, and I'm going to be traveling. And I think that's one of the, this was not supposed to be a fucking, I love AA podcast.
No.
But the thing that I'm looking forward to when I go traveling is that I can go and look up a meeting and be like, oh, hey, I'm going to go check this out.
But it's just good to explore that aspect of recovery, though. And I know, like I said, I know it doesn't work for some people, and I have no ill will against them. I have no ill will, even if you are using the the excuse of like God and you're not feeling that. Like I have no ill will against you either. I just feel like you're not giving something a chance that could work for you if you would just put aside, you know. And I know some people they hold it close to their heart and they're like, no, I'm not putting aside my fucking morals. And I absolutely respect that. And I'm coming from a place of respect. I'm just saying, like, get your ass in here. The water's fine. Just stay away from those weirdos over there.
Right.
You know,
I think
like,
it's yeah. I think it's like if you're hungry and I say, "Well, I've got this pizza and it's a combination pizza," and you go, "I fucking hate black olives." And I'm
right.
like, "Well, you can pick them off,
Yeah, exactly.
right?
It's a great analogy for it, dude.
You
It's a
can
great
pick them
metaphor
off if
for
you're
it.
hungry. You can
Yeah,
have some of my pizza and you can pick off the olives. You don't have
right.
to eat them. You
No,
know what?
throw
Whatever.
them in my fucking face. I don't
Yeah,
care.
right. I don't care, but but at least you
Maybe,
won't be
yeah.
hungry."
Yeah, you will not be hungry anymore. But then
So
again, like we're being super, and I want to, yeah, I'm glad that you said that because I also don't want to sound super pro AA and say this is the only way because there are other ways. There are absolutely other ways. I just don't know them because I've never tried them. I've only tried this, and this has worked so far for 6 years. I haven't had a
mhm.
drink in 6 fucking years. That's crazy balls, dude.
It's gonna be 7 this
You
summer.
know, and it's the recovery. I live in it. So I'm like, don't think about it. And then sometimes it occurs to me and I'm like, dude, you have not been fucked up in 6 years. That is crazy. Like on anything. Like,
Mhm.
I think I took NyQuil once because I was sick. Do you know what I'm saying? And it was the worst.
Yeah.
I felt like shit.
Yeah.
But I'm just, it just is, I don't know, man. It's just what worked for both of us. So we got this thing, you know, that we can relate to, you know.
I couldn't
So,
imagine trying it another way, going, you know what, I don't think that I can toss that shit out of my brain now because I have seen it work
right.
continually for other things, not just
Well,
alcohol.
it's also like buying a Mac as opposed to buying a fucking Android. You know what I mean? Like I only know how an iPhone works. I really want an Android because I hate Mac products. They're go
Mhm.
obsolete immediately. They're such assholes. They change the
Mhm.
charger constantly, motherfuckers. But
Mm.
um
You're in
if
the
I go to an
ecosystem.
Android now, yeah, dude. If I go to an Android phone or like a PC or whatever, I have to relearn that operating system. And this is AA is the operating system that worked for me. And I'm
Yeah.
down. Like I'm down. It's just gonna be a long pain in the ass process. And I am lazy and I am
Right.
reluctant to
Right.
try anything else. I'm
No.
also really, really lazy. Like I'll come up with any excuse to be like, this is what's working now. So we'll do this now.
That's it. That's it. I've seen the results
Yeah.
and I'm happy with them and I continue to be happy with them. And if something didn't work, well, and here's the other part of this whole program is like, doesn't work, don't use it. And I
Right.
found that to be helpful too.
Right. You're not the only thing really, if you want to stop drinking, the only thing you're really obligated to do is not drink. That's the only way to stop drinking is to stop drinking.
Now, if you want to continue that with any, you know, if I want to continue that with any sense of
Yeah, if you yeah,
success,
because some people just stop drinking, they don't drink anymore.
hmm
I've met them
yeah,
and they do okay. They do, I mean, they do, you know what, they do them and I do me. But
hmm
yeah, if I wanted to, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Um, but I really mirror that sentiment you were about to make that I interrupted.
just that the only way that I've had any measure of success is in doing the steps and following through with this and this particular program. And
Mm-hmm.
for me to imagine a whole different program would, like you said, it would be so much work. And like this continues to repeatedly work for me. So every single
Right.
time on the most minute level, like, oh, I thought bad of that person. Well, wait, why did you think bad of that person? What does that say about you, John? What exactly are you really thinking? And is it something within you? And then I go, oh, wait, you're right. That thing that I thought, it doesn't even really exist. And that person doesn't really
Right.
have any pertain to my life at all. And
Right.
that was just a reflection of my own feelings about myself. Oh, okay. Phew, good, gone. And
Damn.
you know, like, and it's not always that quick, but that's kind of that way of thinking has really helped me to be less reluctant and to fall less into the resistance that is so easy. And it's helped
Yeah.
me to, I would say that this program has helped me to deal with like the fitness and the, you know, the health, physical health.
Yeah.
all these things.
Yeah, I can see that.
I've
Applying what
applied
you've
it.
learned in the rooms to help you out with what you're doing in your life outside of the rooms.
Yeah.
That being said, though, even if we're going arching over the program, just even reluctance to stop drinking, like that, I think that's something you have to dig deep in yourself to decide whether or not this is the path. I mean, and I have to use the language of the program again, but if this is unmanageable,
Mm-hmm.
something needs to change. I love that saying, man. I had it written on my dry erase board for years that nothing changes if nothing changes, right? I love that. So nothing will change, like if for the positive, if you change nothing for the positive. So even your reluctance to quit drinking, I would suggest, like when I was in that position, I really had to sit down and take a hard look. I didn't get a DUI, crash my car, and punch my wife, and then I'm like, I'm done after this hard night, I'm done drinking. See, media does it a real disservice by
Mm-hmm.
showing you that you have to get to your absolute lowest degradation. Like, no, you can just be like, this isn't fucking working and it's out of hand.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And it wasn't working. It was out of hand. I remember telling my story for the first time, and I had to, like, I don't know, man. I just felt bad that I didn't have this awful fucking story of degradation, you know? And there
Mhm.
were moments of degradation in my life in my drinking period. Absolutely. But there wasn't like a movie where I woke up shivering outside, covered in piss, homeless, with four
No.
kids peeing on my head and you
No.
know what I mean? Like I'm some crazy person stealing my last tuppence for a scrap of bread. It wasn't like that. Like I
Yeah.
had a little bit of privilege and lived an okay life. It just was going to shit and it was getting harder and harder. And I wanted to kill myself all the time, but didn't have the balls to kill myself. That was
And
it.
that's
That was
pretty
it.
that's
That was
low
it.
enough.
That's pretty fucking
You
low,
know, like
right?
that's
Yeah.
regardless of the
But
external
I washed my
circumstances.
hair, I brushed my
Yeah.
teeth, and my body was clean for the most part, except for the fact I sweated booze, you know. But like, yeah, that's
Wishing I
pretty.
was dead every day
It's
is low enough, right?
pretty low, right?
Internally.
To say this is unmanageable, you know.
Mhm.
Mhm.
So I think too that the perception versus the reality is always something to be aware of in ourselves.
Right. And John and I can't convince you, listener, to quit drinking or to quit doing drugs or whatever. I can't convince you of shit. All I can do is show you that when I stopped doing that shit, I felt much better and things got better. Things got easier
Mm-hmm.
and other things got
Mm-hmm.
harder. But things are always going to be hard. There is no guarantee that being a human being and living in this fucking crazy meat machine that walks around all day is going to be an easy thing. Even for
Mm-hmm.
people who have privilege, there are aspects of it that are hard too.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah, and pouring booze on top of it makes everything worse. It has in
for
my
certain
life.
people, yeah, in
Yeah,
my life too, yeah. But for
for
other
certain
people,
people.
hey, you just pass the Rona to each other and
What was the name of that bar? The swim up bar? Coconuts
remember
last year?
coconuts. Do you remember
It's like a
coconuts? Everybody's like Rona. And now they're showing, and we're gonna go into the Rona section, but they're showing all the cases are like younger people now. Like a majority of the cases are all young people who are like, we're bulletproof, and then the variant comes along and it's like, suck my fucking dick. Nobody here is bulletproof. Yep. So now you got all these like 25 to 40-year-olds in the hospital who thought it was going to be easy to just drink in Scottsdale for a night. No, no. Check as
I
always
spent a
due.
Thanksgiving in Scottsdale once. I had a
I'm
cousin
sorry,
who worked
man.
at one of these fucking resorts
I think Coda lives in that
near
area.
there.
Near
And
there, yeah.
I just remember being there as a kid and my dad, like we stayed in the resort and but we didn't do like a dinner. Like they literally just ordered Domino's and we had Domino's pizza in a resort in Scottsdale in
On
like
Thanksgiving,
on Thanksgiving.
yo, what was your old man doing in Arizona?
I couldn't for the life of
He was just
me
like,
tell
hey,
you.
hey boys, we're going to Scottsdale for Thanksgiving.
He had a friend or a cousin or something that I have no idea, man. I don't
Mhm.
know. I just know that we got hooked up with some like little suite, some little cottage, and I don't even know.
Yo, dude, my hot take is fuck Phoenix for real. I fucking hate Phoenix. That's my hot take. Not to alienate anyone in Phoenix. If you're going through recovery in Phoenix, I'm sorry you got to be in Phoenix, but you'll be all right. But fuck Phoenix though. Spoken like a true Tucsonan, right?
I've only been there once.
I live in lower Arizona, dude. We call this Baja, Arizona. We're all cool down here. Once you get to Phoenix, there's some cool folks there, but they got to live in Phoenix.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's too hot for me.
This is too. It's like the worst parts of LA with no beach.
With no beach.
Dude, these are some hot takes.
20
dude.
degrees. I know.
Someone right now is writing a fucking review, and they're like, "These guys were great for years until fucking Jerry started talking shit about Phoenix."
So I think that I would like to wrap this up.
Yeah.
For today.
We're gonna end it on that note, huh? Listen,
no. Well,
I love you, Phoenix. You people are okay, man. You're gonna be all right. I'm sorry.
I think it's okay. I mean, I think that it's fine. The sidewalk is hot. It's the big, sweaty city. Like, I mean, I don't know. I feel I have deep. I probably still have some resentment toward Las Vegas because I grew up there. I'm near there.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
But I think that, again, I would suggest, and what has worked for me is taking a little bit more of an analytical view at my reluctance and my resistance and like what it is that I'm trying to avoid. Mm-hmm. And then what it is that I'm trying to gain from that. Right. Yeah. So there's this, and that's the shit that I got to do in the middle. And oftentimes we don't change anything until the pain of being stuck is greater than the pain of changing. Right.
Yes,
so it's like,
right. Yeah. Yeah, dude.
And we both know this to be the true law of the universe for ourselves in recovery, mm-hmm. right? But still, I think it's just a human nature thing where we're like, fuck, I don't want to fucking change right now.
Right. I'm in a nice groove, but this groove is getting really uncomfortable and painful.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I would just suggest to anybody, look at what it is that you're trying to gain and look at what it is that you get. Do the pros and the cons of where you're at and where you want to be and mm-hmm. what it's really going to take to get there. And I think a lot of times you'll find, oh, it's really not that bad. Or, oh, staying where I'm at is worse than mm-hmm. moving forward even an inch.
Yeah.
So.
Thanks again for listening. Our music, as always, is by Neglect. You can find more of his stuff at neglect.bandcamp.com.
And you can find us on all social media platforms that matter: Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. And you can reach us at aisforalcoholic@gmail.com.
Talk to you later.
Yeah.